Yes, ma'am. Hello and welcome to the third annual New Jersey Youth Transitions Conference. My name is April DePietro and I represent the Camden County Partnership for Children on behalf of the YTC Planning Committee. We will place a registration form in the chat box for you to share your contact information so that we can share the recordings and resources with you after today's keynote. Please note, for those seeking continuing education credits, you are required to complete the forms throughout the day in the chat box. This was our contact method in which we will send you proof of your attendance for each workshop. Today's workshop will be hosted via the same link that you use to join right now. And you can see our full schedule for today and the rest of the week on our website. And we'll share the agenda on the screen after the conclusion of today's keynote. Our presenter today is Mercedes Witowsky. She is the Executive Director at the New Jersey Council on Developmental Disabilities, and she is our keynote for today. I will turn the floor over to you.
Thank you, April, and thank you, Amy. And I want to thank all the team that put together this terrific week. Thank you all for joining. It's good to see so many people here this morning, and then to know that this is recorded and others will have the opportunity to check in. So if you're listening via recording, hello to you from the New Jersey Council on Developmental Disabilities. It's really a pleasure to be here with you today and to know that you've taken advantage of this opportunity, this free opportunity to listen in on sessions that will help in the transition of young adults into adult life. I do have a PowerPoint presentation, but before I pull that up, I'll just share a little bit about me. As Amy and April have said, I am the Executive Director at the New Jersey Council on Developmental Disabilities and have been in that position for a little over 5 years. But that's just a small part of my 40+ year commitment to this field, the field of disabilities. I started as a direct support professional while I was in college and had the experience of supporting my first 3 individuals were from New Lisbon Developmental Center, and they transitioned into their own apartment. So a different type of transition, but transitions happen all the time. So that experience really grounded me in knowing that while I studied and became a special education teacher, that supporting people outside of the school system where they didn't have as much of the go-to people in their lives readily available was really where I wanted to be. And then as time went on, about 17 years ago, my daughter was 16 at the time. She had a rupture in her brain. She was a high school student, typical student at Morris Knolls High School where we live in Rockaway, New Jersey. And our life changed. She spent 11 months in the hospital, and all the things that I learned as a professional, I started to need to apply on the personal side. And she transitioned from hospital to a special education school out of district, navigating all that went involved with that. And then ultimately, when she graduated, transitioned to now what she lives her best life as an individual who self-directs her services, who has overcome many obstacles, but with the support and with the motivation to live her best life, she's doing that. So I come here not just as executive director of the council, but as someone who's lived through experiences that many individuals and families find themselves in. And I welcome and encourage people to talk to one another, learn through opportunities like this, because as I like to say, we don't know what we don't know. And it's only in opportunities like this that we can learn and grow and individually live our best lives, and when we're supporting people, help them to achieve their best lives. So having introduced myself that way, I will turn to the PowerPoint that I'd like to share with you today that takes you through the work of the New Jersey Council on Developmental Disabilities. So let's see if we got that up there. Somebody just gives me a little high sign or a little emoji that we're good. Okay, I see it. Who is the New Jersey Council on Developmental Disabilities? If you have not heard of us, I am sorry. And if you have heard of us, thank you for learning what you've learned so far. Hopefully I can introduce a few other things to you today, because our work is ever changing and evolving throughout the state of New Jersey. The agenda that I was hoping to take us through today was to give you a grounding and an understanding in the authority and purpose of the New Jersey Council on Developmental Disabilities, talk about our 5-year planning process and our priorities, dig a little deeper into the programs and the funded services and opportunities that we provide, talk about our collaborative efforts, and then hopefully answer any questions that you might have. So who are we? The New Jersey Council on Developmental Disabilities is one of 3 required services or organizations built into and established by the Developmental Disabilities Assistance and Bill of Rights Act, or also known as just the DD Act. There are 56 councils across states, all states and territories, 6 territories. And in that federal authority, our role is to give people with intellectual and developmental disabilities and their families a voice in the planning process, a voice in how services and supports are delivered to best meet their needs. We work in tandem through the DD Act with the other 2 what we call state partners or sister agencies. That's Disability Rights New Jersey. They are the protection and advocacy arm of the DD Act, and then also the Centers for Excellence, which is the New Jersey Boggs Center on Developmental Disabilities. So the council itself, unlike the Disability Rights and the Boggs Center, is an organization that's made up of public members. So we are not a nonprofit. We are in, but what we are is in, but not of, the State Department of Human Services. In that role, through the DD Act, all councils are required to have public members appointed. Every state does it just a little different, but in New Jersey, our governor appoints 30 members to our council in order to maintain the philosophy that people with disabilities and their families should have the opportunity for control and to really lead the way services and supports are delivered. The 30 appointed members are made up of 60%, so a majority, the control, by individuals with disabilities or family members of individuals with disabilities. And then 40% of the members are made up of state organizations, required departments in the state of New Jersey, as well as the Boggs Center and Disability Rights New Jersey. So that's how our council is configured. Some might refer to our council members as board members, as in that social service, nonprofit side of business, but they are council members that again are appointed by our governor, and we hold 4 public meetings a year. We actually have one coming up on November the 2nd, which is 2 weeks from today. And those public meetings are held in Hamilton at the Hilton Garden Inn. We encourage anyone to come. And we also now host those meetings via Zoom, so you can also register and listen in on meetings to hear about the work on the day-to-day that the council is engaged in. Get my cursor back where it belongs. Okay. So what is our vision or our mission at the council? Um, I hope it's the same as all of you, that you value and you have a mission that all individuals are contributing members of their neighborhoods, of their communities, that everyone has an opportunity to make real choices and have control over their lives, that everyone has the ability to make mistakes along the way, that they're in a position to set goals and given the supports to achieve those goals, that individuals with disabilities and their families are in a position to, influence policymakers, have a direct line of communication to the people that make decisions that affect their lives, and ultimately have the same rights, privileges, and responsibilities and opportunities as any other person. And when we say all people with disabilities here, we really mean all means all. And some of the very important work at the council is to ensure that every voice is heard, not just the people who maybe have more influence over others, but that everyone is given that opportunity. And the ways that we try to achieve that is through our 5-year plan. The federal government requires that every state and territory develop a 5-year plan. We're all on the same planning cycle. So we just initiated our 5-year plan, not just, but October 1st of 2021, which began the fiscal year 22, the federal fiscal year. And we're about 2 full years through our plan. We finished our 22-23 year just this past September. And now we're on to our 23 fiscal year 23 goals and objectives. We have 3 core focuses within our plan for our goals. They are around advocacy, systems change, and capacity building. In the area of advocacy, our intention in this 5-year plan is to continue to train and mentor individuals and families, giving them the tools that they need in order to achieve their best lives. To also, we have a priority on increasing access to information for Black New Jersey residents and their families, and others who have been less supported and marginalized in the process of gaining services and supports, and to also decrease the technology barriers that exist that we saw, unfortunately, throughout COVID, and the inability for people to connect in ways just like this because of technology. In the area of systems change, a real important goal of the council is to look at systems and to continuously recommend changes and improvements that deliver the services and supports the way people need them, not the way they're necessarily planned by government officials that are not living the lives of people with disabilities. And then in the area of capacity building, we know that there's so much work to be done, and I am sure that all of you have experience in needing help, needing resources that help to increase information and supports around areas like education, housing, healthcare, access, and employment, just to name a few. So how do we do this work? There are projects and programs and activities that we conduct internally at the council. So we have a team of about 11 staff, and those staff take on some of the direct work. And then we also generate requests for proposals each year that bring in system partners and provide funding to achieve some of our goals and objectives. I'll first start to talk about some of our internal projects. Hopefully you're familiar with some of them, and if you're not, this is why we're doing this, to invite you to participate, to learn more, and to gain some of the valuable aspects of the services that we can offer at the council. So our youth leadership project, which is front and center there, and I have a little bit more information on each of these. I'll just touch on them right now. Our youth leadership project and People First projects are coordinated specifically for self-advocates to learn about how to be an advocate and how to build their partnerships and learn about how to speak for themselves and for others with intellectual and or developmental disabilities. The regional family support planning councils are councils across the state that are for family members. And then our New Jersey Partners in Policymaking is for both self-advocates and family advocates. So starting with our youth leadership project, hopefully this is a project that would be of most interest given the topic of this conference. The Youth Leadership Program provides those leadership and advocacy training to our younger students in school, but not just in school, but throughout that transition process. So it primarily targets individuals who are between 15 and 25, although some younger folks have participated in some of the sessions that are offered. The schools, are the resource and the place where we typically provide these services. I have on the screen Frank Latham. You'll hear his name on the next screen. I think you'll see him in the audience today, and you'll also have an opportunity to hear him in one of the breakout sessions later today. Frank is our People First and Youth Leadership Coordinator, and there's no better person for that job. Frank's engaging and has a wonderful reputation in our schools and in the self-advocacy community. In particular, the trainings that Frank offers in schools cover an 8 subject area coursework, if you will, and those are listed here up on the screen. These trainings can be a series that can be conducted in schools and are being conducted in schools across the state, or they can also be picked off, if you will, as a standalone presentation. From those chapters, or I should say the opportunity to engage with students, there's a step that goes beyond the school years, which are these People First chapters that the council also supports. Frank, again, being the coordinator of our People First chapters. The council embarked on People First back in 2014. And it is a nationwide program and philosophy that states have embraced to provide the support for self-advocates to be to learn skills, learn their own advocacy and leadership skills, and then to take on projects and work that advances the needs of people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. Right now, we have chapters through multiple counties across the state and opportunities to continue to support other chapters. There is a curriculum that's used in providing some of the content materials, but I think the beauty of this is based on where people live and based on their needs and who's involved. Many of the People First chapters take on projects that are specific to their communities and to their needs set. And we're there, Frank's there as the support to get groups off the ground, to help provide content, and to encourage the leaders in developing their own agenda so that they can pursue their own advocacy needs. So that's the focus on our self-advocacy at the council for individuals with disabilities. I'll talk a little bit about also our family support, because what we find is that for self-advocates and for family advocates, all the information that you can get from the professionals is great, but when you can talk to each other, when you can network with each other, very often people can learn so much more. And I say that with all due respect to all the professionals here in attendance, but mom to mom, dad to mom, dad to mom, person to person, you really can share more freely very often. And you also have the opportunity then to listen to somebody else's experience and apply that in your own life. So regional family support planning councils really help in that way for families. There are 10 councils across the state of New Jersey, and they're regionally structured. I live in Morris County, so I am part of Council 1, which serves Morris, Sussex, and Warren counties. So in those 10 councils, they look at issues on a geographic level, but then also, like I said, can be there to support one another because they live close enough to each other. Kyoko Coco and Carrie McGrath are the two staff that support that, the families support planning councils. I hope that these slides will somehow be available to you, because all the contact information, you don't have to write anything down, will be available in these slides and links of anything that I talk about today. The other interesting component within the council, because their charge is to really, I'll say kind of be like a watchdog, a monitor. Their role is established very clearly in what's called the Family Support Act of 1993. So they have purpose and authority to monitor and evaluate the services across both youth, our children's system of care, and the Division of Developmental Disabilities. And they have very close relationships with those state departments and are really a voice and often a sounding board for systems that are being considered at the state level. So if you're a parent or if you connect with parents, I would encourage you to connect with the local regional family support planning council. And then, as I mentioned, Partners in Policy Making brings together both the self-advocate and the parent advocate. And this is just an amazing opportunity. I actually participated in the 8-month-long Partners in Policy Making program after my daughter became disabled, to use this opportunity to get to meet other individuals and families, but then also to learn the ways in which I can influence policy decisions at the state and sometimes even at the federal level. So the New Jersey Partners in Policy Making right now, while it's funded by the New Jersey Council on Developmental Disabilities, we work in partnership with Rutgers, the Bog Center at Rutgers, and Disability Rights New Jersey to bring content to Partners in Policy Making. It is an 8-month commitment, and you need to be available on Fridays and Saturdays because that's when it's held. But the experience and the people that I've met every year at the graduation are, I'll just call them rock stars. You really need to consider participating in a project like this. If you maybe it's a little bit you'll take it a little bit out of your comfort zone, but to sit with 25 to 30 people with the same interests and motivation to advocate, to learn how to work alongside policymakers, state agencies, to have direct contact with those policymakers because they come in as speakers. and to be part of this movement, I think is just an incredible opportunity, and it's free. So let's talk about some of the ways that we also, I don't have a slide up on our current grants, but I did want to spend a minute because the work of this conference around transition and the work of some of our current grants that we fund through the council align very, very, very much. One of our grants is to provide leadership training. It's a leadership training academy where it's only for individuals with who have intellectual or developmental disabilities. So it's a self-advocacy component. It's a project funded that the council has funded through Community Options, and they have developed a curriculum built by and in many cases delivered by people with disabilities to share experiences and to take that next step after school years to really be part of something that hones in on individuals' advocacy skills and abilities, and ultimately generates the next generation of leaders in the self-advocacy movement. Another project that we fund is through the ARC of New Jersey, and it's a transition program that is run in the schools, where the ARC of New Jersey, as part of their Planning for Adult Life series, actually looks at ways that the schools can benefit from transition for individuals, particularly and focused on the transitions to employment. And New Jersey is an employment first state, but we have a lot of work to do in order to bring about real employment, real jobs, real opportunities for work for people with disabilities. And that has to start at the school years in the transition process. We also fund another project. This is the third project that again focuses on transition, but if you think back to the goals and objectives that we have for our 5-year plan, this third project is being delivered by Lederick Horn. And you may have heard him speak earlier this week in one of the keynote sessions. Lederick is phenomenal. He has partnered with Bill Davis, and together they are helping schools and students and families. So it's a three-way partnership in targeted schools to around the transition process, but more importantly, helping the council understand the disparity in Black New Jersey students and their families in how they are not as connected and have been, again, not given the same opportunities in their schools and in their experience to understand the services and supports that are needed after students graduate. So a great program. If you want to learn more about them, happy to connect with you at any time. So, community innovation projects, what's that? The council also is able to fund projects that are new and innovative at the local level. If you think about it, an idea to get it off the ground, it might not need a big grant. It might not need a large funding level, but that little bit of money to focus around a project that can be replicated across our state is a great way for the council to invest. It's a rolling application, so no one has to wait for a request for proposals to come out. And the goal is to fund projects that will have impact at the local level, but also can be replicated in other parts of the state. So I invite you to check that out if that's something that you think someone that you or someone might want to consider learning more about. And then we also are able to fund individuals or families to attend local conferences, seminars, and other advocacy and training opportunities And there's an application on our website. It's called the Leadership Training Support Fund. Sometimes that registration fee is what holds back someone from participating in a conference or in a workshop. There are some parameters around it, but also would encourage people to take advantage of that if that can help in any way. So one of the most important, I think, components of our council is the way that we collaborate and the way that we develop partnerships. Because if you're in the school system supporting families, if you're a parent, if you're an individual, it's the people that you have around you. It's the people that you work with in your lives, that you come in contact with, that really are the ways that things come to life. It helps to ground you, but it also helps to expand the possibilities when people work together. And when we work alone, we can do a great job, but just think about the impact we have when organizations come together for a common purpose. So our Council on Developmental Disabilities always strives to engage with others, to be a part of opportunities that take a common issue and work together to try to solve that, because chances are you'll be more successful, and we've been more successful in building those relationships. So I've listed some of those organizations here on this screen. There's not enough room on a slide to include them all, but we really value the opportunity to collaborate and to partner with state officials, with public and private agencies, with our education system, with our legislators, to have the most impact that we can in reaching our common goals. And one of those activities was the formation of the New Jersey Legislative Disability Caucus. So a 16-year-old and their family might say, well, why is that important to me? And I'll tell you that coming up this coming Tuesday, the 24th of October, we'll have a legislative session, an hour session with our legislators about transition. How timely is this? This was not planned, but couldn't have aligned any better. The topic that will be chaired by Senator Teresa Ruiz will focus on, what's working around transition and what are the obstacles and recommendations to improve transition from school to adult life. This is an area of importance for Senator Ruiz and for the other members of the Legislative Disability Caucus. Every year we have 4 meetings with our Legislative Disability Caucus, and these are legislators who have made a commitment to disability services across our state. There are 4 co-chairs, as you see here on your screen. Any one of you can become a member of this initiative by signing up for information about the topics that will be presented each year, but also to share your ideas and your thoughts, and share your experiences about, again, what works, what doesn't work, and to ensure that our legislators are aware and that they're doing what they can in legislation to address those issues. There are about 35 legislators who have become caucus members. There are over 45 supporting agencies that have signed on. There's no cost to sign on, but it demonstrates their commitment to be part of the legislative caucus. And there's a dedicated web page on our website where you can find that information. Every recording is also available on our website, so you can listen to legislative discussion with speakers about topics that have been raised so far through this process. And then the other way that we help connect with people is a magazine. Yes, and still an old-fashioned paper magazine that gets delivered to about 13,000 addresses across our state. There are electronic versions, of course, available, but not too much gets put out in the mail anymore. And we're really proud that we can continue to distribute a magazine to families about and individuals about important issues that affect their lives. The very last issue that we produced was on Medicaid unwinding. That's a term that may not be familiar to everyone, but if you have Medicaid you get certain information about renewing your Medicaid in the mail, it is very important to focus on. So this particular issue focused on Medicaid unwinding and a host of other articles that's available for you to check out if you have time. And then the council also has created a number of other ways to communicate with individuals. In addition to the magazine, we have a blog. Within this PowerPoint, you'll be able to link to all of these publications. We also have a very new electronic newsletter that we encourage you to subscribe to. It is chock full of information every Tuesday that is electronically delivered and has a calendar of things that are coming up, action items to focus on, advocacy action items, and information that I'm sure many of you will find useful. And then the fourth publication is a quarterly publication called Common Ground. It is a newsletter and a website specifically for parents, for educators, and for to educate stakeholders on legal and legislative developments that are shaping our special education services. So you can subscribe individually, or you can subscribe to all of our publications. So Amy and April asked that as part of the keynote today, that we give you some takeaways. Why I can't see you and sit across the table from you to hand you some of these things. Personally, I am encouraging you all to look at the resources that we have available on our council website. And I've broken it out into 3 categories. Our people first, our individuals, students, adults with disabilities, resources for families, and then resources for professionals. And I guess I'll tell you, for professionals, any of these resources would really apply. However, I've broken it out this way for you. Our People First resources are really how-to documents. They can be picked up by anyone, although you really don't want to miss out on Frank Latham delivering these resources in person or virtually. But they're resources like rights and responsibilities of people with disabilities, where to begin when you are looking to organize an advocacy action group, how to make your group work, how to start the group, how to keep the group going, how to run a meeting, about officer roles and responsibilities, and how you take votes at meetings. There's a handbook that accompanies these resources. And then there's also a whole youth leadership skill development track. So these are all resources that are readily available for you to pick up and use, and or topics that Frank can come out and provide in person or virtually. The Leadership Training Academy that I mentioned in the funded work that we're engaged in right now will also ultimately have a guidebook, a published guidebook at the conclusion of their grant. So these are tools and resources that can begin as early in the school and education transition process, and then across the lifespan. The family support tools that we have include many, many guidebooks and handbooks, and frequently asked question documents. Again, the role of Family Advisory Council, that's a council that meets directly with the Division of Developmental Disability on a monthly basis to inform them about system usage and potential changes in the system. There's a quick guide for DD services. I've seen this fly off of tables in different settings because it's a very short way to understand the DDD supports program and the community care program. There's also a guide on accessing New Jersey developmental disability services. There are several handbooks on family crisis, on health and safety, and then a host of recorded sessions on topics like succession planning, education days that are broad and very specific, and recorded sessions on inclusive education, how to use the IEP, how to use the ISP, and so on. And then for our professionals, many of these guidebooks that I'd mentioned already are readily available, and I think equally as beneficial for our professional leaders in our state, as well as other opportunities, as I mentioned, on the request for proposals for our community innovation projects, and other resources on engaging in advocacy and systems change activities. So this is the page that will get you to us, either by email, our website. We are located in Trenton. We do have an office in Trenton at the Mary Roebling Building in downtown Trenton. But most of our activity takes place out in your communities, where you all work and live. And then there's our telephone and contact information. So I think that wraps. Let me stop this share so that I can see more of you and maybe you can see me. And I'm going to ask April for some help now, if there are any questions, or if people can open up their microphone and.
Absolutely. Just a lot of thank you. This is full of information. Someone said it would be beneficial at the end diagnosis process of a DDD that families are connected with CSOC to help set up a base for future needs and transition. Someone asked, how can they subscribe? So we provided the link to the NJCDD.org. How can we get on the mailing list? Thank you. Will this recording be shared? So a lot of positive feedback from the room. Let me see, a couple more came in, a whole bunch of thank yous. Excellent presentation. Yeah, you're a fantastic keynote. Thank you so much. Let me see if there's any questions in here.
If anyone has any questions or wants to share any experiences that can help us today, I think that's a great way to engage.
Yeah. Someone did say, I want to learn more about the ARC supports for schools in transition.
Sure. Happy to connect with you or connect you with the ARC. If you are able to tune in on Tuesday, the 24th at the Legislative Caucus, Jerisa Maseko, who is the director of that program, is actually one of the speakers. Laderick Horn, if you've heard him earlier this week, he's actually another speaker at the Legislative Caucus session this Tuesday, as well as a student who transitioned, recently transitioned. I think he's 22 and in college. So the legislators are going to get to hear from those three individuals. And Amy says Jerisa Maseko from the ARC presents tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. So you can hear directly from Jerisa. That program is terrific.
Someone asked, what is meant by employment first state?
Well, we've been asking that question at the council because the employment first, I guess the designation was established in New Jersey, unfortunately, without a lot of direction and a lot of teeth, let's say. Not a lot of, unfortunately, again, one of our council members referred to Employment First as a slogan and not a practice.
Oh.
So when you hear that from an advocate who is interested in working, but struggles to find the services and supports in order to work, that tells us a lot, right? So I will share with you on our council website, there is an Employment First white paper that we commissioned in the last 3 years. The work there is really a blueprint for how Employment First moves from being a slogan to an actual practice in supporting individuals to work in competitive integrated employment in their communities. So I would be happy to get that link as a part of the follow-up for that paper. But more importantly, to know that the council is working very hard on objectives and opportunities, the grant through the ARC of New Jersey to, have a module that focuses on employment as youth transition, because we know that employment, if we address it at an early age and we offer it at an early age and support it at an early age, that people are more likely to work and remain employed. Unfortunately, the council has seen far too many individuals and their families come to us and say those resources were not there, and it's so much more difficult to introduce and encourage work, as time goes on. So we are excited about that work, and Adam Kubler, who's our coordinator of employment at the council, is always available and wants to talk with people who want to pursue employment and need the resources in order to do so. So I'd encourage you to connect with us if that's a particular area of focus. And Jill, I encourage you to reach out. I'm going to just drop my email address in the chat. I don't understand. Does that mean college and academics is not encouraged? Oh, absolutely. College and academics are totally encouraged. Work can sometimes go along with that, or certainly comes after academics, are achieved and your goals around academics are achieved. Thanks, Jill. Anyone else have anything to share, an experience to share, a challenge perhaps that we should hear about at the council that you're facing in your work? This is a very shy group, April.
I think maybe the coffee is just settling in. There's a lot of great information. Thank you so much. This one's, I think, directed to me. I will repost the links that I provided. Yes, to RC. I'll do that right now.
So I really appreciate all of you being here this morning. I appreciate that this work is important to you because it's important to us. If you could remember that all means all, and if anything that we can do to support your efforts, whether you are a student, whether you're a family member, whether you're a professional working in this system, the Council on Developmental Disabilities wants to engage, wants to hear about your successes and your struggles, so that we can encourage the great things that are happening across our state and help prepare the system for the things that have not quite worked and need to be improved. So I really thank you for participating this morning. I wish you all a great rest of the conference. I congratulate this group for this third annual conference that gives so many resources and so many opportunities for people. And I hope that we get to meet in person at some point in the future. So thank you all.
There's one more question if you have time. Somebody wanted you to circle back to the council in-person meetings, Friday and Saturdays for 8 months in person, and where.
So right now, the partners in policymaking they're meeting in New Brunswick. That's their location. They may be moving that location in future years, but they meet in New Brunswick at the Hyatt in downtown New Brunswick. That class just started in September, so it runs from September until April every year. Over the summer is typically when you will see an application to participate in partners in policymaking. There is a selection process. They only take about 25 to 30 individuals each year. And next year's course will be for only alumni. So if you have been a participant in Partners in Policymaking, you will have the opportunity to apply for next year, which is the first time they're hosting, or we're jointly hosting this alumni series, so that we can check back in with people that have graduated in the past. There have been over 500 graduates in New Jersey in Partners in Policymaking. And we want to make sure that those that have participated in past years are given that opportunity to connect, to re-energize, revitalize their advocacy efforts. And then the following year, so in 2 years, we'll open it back up to a new class.
Excellent. Thank you so much. That concludes the keynote for today. Thank you so much to Mercedes Witowsky, the Executive Director of the New Jersey Council on Developmental Disabilities, for your time and for sharing your knowledge and resources this morning.